Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to my channel, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at how to sound like Vildhjarta, or in other words, how to thawl. So this is going to go through all the types of techniques that you can use in this style. For example, you've got those ambient clean textures. Then you've got those low tunings with those bending notes. As well as pitch shifting that you can incorporate into the style. Now let's go over the gear that I'm using. For the guitars, I'm using this Aria Jet baritone, which is a 30-inch scale baritone that allows me to tune down very low. I've got this in drop E. Now Vildhjarta use their own custom alternate tuning, but I prefer drop E just because I'm accustomed to the tuning, but I'm still getting that low E. If you want to know more about this Aria long scale baritone guitar, you can check this video I did over here where I give a full review on this guitar and what I really like about it and how well it can work with low tunings. And then for the guitar tone and plugins and effects, I'm using the Line 6 Helix suite plus with some other plugins. But before jumping in, please, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel. Now let's jump back in and see what we can do. So first off, let's jump in and hear how we can create a sort of ambient clean tone and then the style of riff that we're going to be using. So over here on the guitars, I'm using the neck pickup on this guitar, and then I'm using an instance of Helix Native with a jazz rivet, which is like a jazz Roland clean amp, and it sounds like this. Then I'm adding an instance of Valhalla Room. So this is a room reverb with a long decay. Then after this, I'm adding in an analog delay, which is using an 1/8 note dotted delay. And then when you combine it with the reverb, you get this. And then just to even everything out, I'm just adding a compressor here just to tame those dynamics. So let's go through this ambient clean tone that's going to be the sort of background for our whole track. So let's talk more about the chords that I'm using within that clean ambient section. I'm starting off with a minor key in E minor. And then it goes to an E flat augmented. So you've got voicings that are very close to each other and the movement is like a semitone apart. And then I'm also using a C major. So those are the three chords that I'm using within that section. Now just to create some extra tension, I'm adding another ambient guitar, but this, instead of using a clean amp, is using a high gain amp. Now Vildhjarta is very well known for using the pod farm and the pod tones in their guitar, and they were using the big bottom amp preset with a slight tweaking, but this is not in Helix anymore. This has been updated now to the Bedonk. So I'm using the Bedonk amp with these settings, and it sounds like this. And you just add in the other parts. So for the groove of Vildhjarta and Thawl style tunes, it's a very open and spacious sound. Even though you've got very intricate guitar parts, it's very simple with the groove, but you can build it up and make it more complex. So over here, I've got a groove that's at 80 BPM. And then what I've got is I've got the crash on every beat, and then the kick on every first and third beat, and the snare on every second and fourth beat. But I've just changed it up slightly. So this is going to be my basic groove over here. Okay, so that's the groove. Now let's move over into the high gain guitar tone and the techniques that we use there. And then for the high gain amp tone, I'm just using the Helix Line 6 amp suite, and I'm using the Bedonk amp block, and I've dialed in these settings over here. And then for the cab section over here, I'm using a 4x12 Cali V30. So that's a Mesa Boogie with some V30s. Just in front of the amp, I've added a tube screamer just to tighten up that low end, and then just done a bit of post EQing. And it now sounds like this. Okay, so that is our tone. Now let's get into the techniques that we're going to use for the riff that's going to go over that ambient background. Okay, so for the guitar parts, I want to incorporate that low E and then some fast single notes. And what you find that they're doing is they're playing higher up on the fretboard and using a lot of the low strings. So instead of playing a note, for example, over here, they're playing it over here. So instead of that higher timbre, you got that low timbre in the note over there, and you're hearing that sort of darker sound. So a lot of what I'm going to be playing is higher up on the fretboard over here. So I've got those fast single notes, and then I want to do some bends. Now bends are incorporated a lot in the style, either slow bends or fast bends. So let me show you the riff that I've come up with. So that's the riff, but what I want to do now is add in some pitch shifting. So I've got those two bent notes, but I want to pitch down the second bend down 3 semitones, as well as that last low note that I play. I'm going to shift that down 3 semitones. And for this, I'm using the Digitech whammy pedal. That's just using that to shift down 3 semitones while I play, but you could also use any pitch shifting plugins. So on the Digitech Whammy DT over here, I'm using the drop tune side on the right, and I've set it to -3 semitones. And then I'm using the momentary switch over here to momentarily switch it down -3 semitones. And it sounds like this. Then just to make it sound even heavier, I'm adding a bass guitar with some saturation that's playing in unison, but it's not playing all the notes with the guitar. It's just playing some of the notes just to reinforce it. So let me play back the drums and the guitar and then show you how I add in the bass as well. So I'm going to mute the ambient guitar texture and just play through on the section over here with the guitars and drums. And then now with the bass, that sounds like this. I'm just going to play the bass by itself. So just playing some of the notes, not playing everything. And then for that bass tone, I've used an instance of Neural Dark Glass. I've just dialed in some settings where I've blended in the saturation and then just added some extra post-processing with some compression and some EQ. But now if you hear the bass and the drums with the guitars, it sounds like this. Now let's make that guitar part a bit more complex. I want to add in another bend. So I've got a slow bend. And then I also want to add in some dissonance. So you're playing a note and then you're playing another note on the string up a semitone apart. And it gives you that dissonance. So I've got a new part over here that I want to play back. And I'm also talk about the drums a bit more. So take a listen over here. So you can hear that slow bend that I've added in there that sort of contrasts the faster bends and those high dissonant notes. But what I want to show you now is how I've made the drums more complex. So here are the drums over here, and I just wanted to reinforce those fast single notes and those chugs with some double kicks. So here are the drums now. And now let me play it back with those guitars as well. Now, another thing I just want to show about in this style is that THALL is very much a bedroom studio production type of genre or style. You're recording all your stuff by sort of blocking it out, and that's really the best way that you can work in the style. You sort of block out 4 bars and you come up with an idea, then you record the parts and then you tighten everything up. And when it comes to tightening up, check out these guitar parts over here. So what I want to do is I just want to remove these parts over here and then just drag this out And you can see that the parts aren't really that tight. So what I've had to do is I've had to go in and just really tighten up, because with a slow tempo and this type of style, you want everything to be on the grid. So I've, for example, taken this part here and then just sort of moved it over so it's lining up right on the grid. The same for here. I could take this, go over here, and just make sure that everything is lining up. So that's really key in this genre. You record your guitar parts, and even as tight as you play it in, you really want to go in and edit them so it's really tight on the grid. So you've got this very tight guitar part over this very open ambient and drum piece. Now, what Vildhjarta and THALL bands also like to do is change the meter, which changes the feel of the song. So I want to take a riff and a drum part and give it a sort of triplet feel. But what I also want to do is I want to take the song and shift it down a semitone. So we're going to have that low note play, and then it's going to shift down a semitone, and then it's going to go into this triplet part. So let me show you what that sounds like. So that's my take on Vildhjarta and the style of THALL. Now, in no way have I covered everything here. I'm definitely going to do some more THALL videos in the future, but let me know what you thought of this video. I just wanted to just dive in and tap into some of the techniques they use. For example, those ambient clean tones, and then you've got those low tunings with those bends and pitch shifting, and all of that is really fun to play and create this style. So let me know in the comments below on what other types of techniques that you use in your THALL productions, and what you'd like to see in future videos if I go through some more THALL techniques. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, please leave a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and also don't forget to click on that notification bell to be notified of future videos. And to finish everything off, let me show you these riffs and the instrumentation within the context of a full mix. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in another video.